I am so close to the end of this first part, you guys. I'm willing to drop 5 chapters at once, followed by the last 6 chapters in another video, just to be done with this that much quicker. Chapter 44. Kelly tries to run off, but she's stopped by the female wolf from earlier. The girl is naked, thanks to shifting to fight on Kelly's behalf earlier, and demands Kelly's clothes. She praises Kelly for having fought so viciously earlier, but then says that she's going to get the alpha. Following that, Kelly spends a lot of time thinking. Despite how terrible that Lola was, she still worries about Lola's safety now that Kelly isn't with Colton and Xavier. She also briefly thinks about her parents. And I have to say that considering that Kelly and Lola were only supposed to have been gone for about 2 weeks, I'm fairly certain that way more time than that has passed. You'd think that Kelly's parents would have filed a missing persons report, especially since Kelly hasn't exactly mentioned calling her parents recently. But as usual, I'm putting way more thought into this than the writer clearly did. She kind of sits around and panics for a really long time. At this point, it's just kind of like, we get it, move on already. However, I can't help but bring up Kelly's thoughts about how stupid she'd been to not leave with Lola when Xavier had offered to let her go, which, duh. This isn't even hindsight at this point. Even in that moment, Kelly was being stupid. This girl is too stupid to be alive. Kelly continues to think about things, including how psycho that Xavier is. And again, we got all this the first billion times that it was brought up in the book, which, thanks for the random recap, I guess. After a while, the girl comes back and tells Kelly to get dressed. She asks if Kelly can run, but when Kelly says that she's not going to leave, the girl asks about Kelly's physical ability to run and about her willingness. She's letting Kelly go and tells her exactly where to go. Chapter 45. Rather than to take the chance to get out of there, Kelly instead looks this gift horse in the mouth. And I get what she's saying, that she doesn't know the girl and how can she trust her not to betray Kelly. But Kelly wildly swings between overthinking things way too much and jumps in blindly with nothing in between. She should probably thank the girl after the girl insists that there's no tricks and just go. However, since Xavier or Colton aren't there to pick a fight with, Kelly has to fight with this girl instead. Ugh. Kelly then leaves the room where she hears signs of battle and knows that Colton and Xavier came to rescue her. The other girl follows after Kelly and she begs some others not to kill her. Lola then randomly shows up, because when I'm going into the house of a rival pack, the first person that I know that I want to bring is a deadweight human who wouldn't be able to lift a finger to protect herself. But then Lola shifts into a werewolf. And, I don't know, ignoring how half of the comments had predicted this, half of the things Lola was saying and doing indicated that she knew way more than what was going on. She seemed so eager to get Kelly into the arms of Xavier no matter what, and she always seemed to side with Xavier and Colton, even going against the physical and emotional well-being of her so-called friend. That being said, this twist isn't half as unexpected as the writer probably thought it was. The only thing that I can say about this scene is that at least Kelly has an appropriate response to finding out that her friend is also a werewolf. The bar is so low that we have to applaud Kelly freaking out over this. Anyway, they fight for a while before Lola gets too badly hurt. Jay shows up and carries her away from there. Xavier finds Kelly and eventually carries her from the house. Outside, they run into the Alpha, who is insanely upset about how Xavier supposedly killed his sister. Xavier tells Kelly that he'll protect her, but then openly mocks the Alpha about his dead sister. Chapter 46. Xavier and the Alpha stand around and throw barbs at one another. It sounds less and less like Xavier went psycho killer on the poor girl and more like the girl was nothing but a pawn for the pack. There is way more political stuff going on here than previously thought. And it's too bad that we had to slog through more than 40 chapters of garbage padding just to get to the singular point of actually halfway decent writing. The Alpha starts to tell Kelly about what really happened, about the politics of Xavier's pack from the other pack's point of view. He even throws around a 4-letter R word, but Xavier shifts and starts to physically attack him before he can really explain anything. And as Kelly stands and watches them fighting, making zero effort to actually get away, she thinks about how terrible that Xavier actually is. She never cared about Xavier holding her or Lola hostage, or how he constantly threatened to murder her. Nope, the thing that breaks her is undeniable proof that Xavier had murdered the other girl, his so-called mate. Like, yeah, that is something to get upset over, girl. Why weren't you upset over all the other stuff? Kelly then realizes that Xavier is attacking in a suicidal way and calls it pulling a Kellyanna. Oh my god. When the story has just enough awareness to make fun of itself, but zero awareness not to have included the thing that needs to be made fun of in the first place. When Callie's words fail to stop Xavier, she then turns her attention to the Alpha and continues to taunt him about his dead sister. Other wolves start to show up, but the Alpha taunts that he was only just a distraction so that his beta can kill Callie. As she runs off, Callie again thinks about things like Lola, but spares zero effort into thinking about her poor parents. However, just before a wolf can rip her throat out, another wolf shows up. Xavier. Chapter 47. Xavier kills the other wolf quickly before he encourages Callie to get onto his back. They jump out of a window where they encounter even more wolves. But these don't attack, and Callie has yet another random moment of reflection over everything that's recently happened to her. They then randomly start tending to Callie's hurts. They must have gotten back to their own home, but something was freaking missing in all of that riding around on Xavier's back business. Now that they're relatively safe for the moment, Xavier says that he must know Callie has a bunch of questions, but then immediately says that he won't talk about Lola. He says that he and Jay used to be in a pack together, but that Jay must have remained loyal even though they aren't brethren anymore. Callie then begs Xavier to tell her about what happened about his mate. Xavier begins to tell her. A while ago, he was in a pack. The other pack, the one who kidnapped Callie, had been going around and challenging all the other packs to a fight in order to prove that they were the strongest. The Alpha of Xavier's pack was just kind of went, "Sucks to be you," and left them, but in doing so, he left women and children basically defenseless. But Xavier goes on to say that in order to be Alpha, you need a mate and you need to have children with your mate. The Alpha's mate died, but rather than to step down, the Alpha stole Xavier's mother and forced himself onto her over and over until she got pregnant, and then forced her to give birth, and then forced her to give birth a second time. Those children were Colton and Xavier. As you can imagine, this created a lot of anger and resentment in Xavier. He wanted to get powerful so that he could overthrow his abusive father and get his mother out of that awful situation. And, I just want to pause and say that it's all good and everything, and that Xavier wanted to stop his abuser from hurting his mother, even if that man was his father. But he says all of this, and yet he also kept Callie and Lola prisoner for weeks on end. And maybe he said that he was waiting for Callie's permission to do certain adult things with her. But at the same time, how much would that yes have meant when he had imprisoned her until she was emotionally broken? He says that he hates his father for what he did to his mother, but his actions speak way louder than his words. He's no different than his father. But before Xavier could kill his father, the other pack showed up and his father abandoned ship. The other pack destroyed Xavier's pack, if only because there was no Alpha to command them. And I have to say, if your pack is so weak that the disappearance of one person means the death of everybody, then it's probably not a solid system. Survival of the fittest and all of that. But anyway, Xavier found his mate murdering his mother, and that's why Xavier killed his mate. But when he killed his mate, it also killed his wolf. Until now, apparently. Xavier goes on to say that Colton had brought other girls around in the hopes that it would bring Xavier's wolf back and he would become Alpha. Callie was the third of such girls. Xavier tells her that he pushed her away more out of trying to protect himself than anything. And again, he says this, but the singular thing he could have done would be to send her home, not keep her prisoner for weeks and emotionally torture her. But then Xavier says that his wolf came back around Callie and picked her as his mate, which... Can we not? Chapter 48. Lola shows up before we can have any more of the Xavier Callie stuff, which, okay, fine, I guess. Time for Lola and her nonsense. Xavier goes, but Callie tells him that they'll talk more later. Lola then tells Callie that Jay is her mate, and he's been following her for a while now, not because he's a stalker, but to make sure that she's okay, which sounds like a stalker, but I'm not going to get into the line between creepy and romantic in a story about holding a girl hostage for weeks on end. Lola goes on to say that she's a half-breed werewolf with her mother a human and her father a wolf. Her dad was from Xavier's old pack, but not the Alpha. Her mother was a stripper and her father a player. When Mommy got pregnant with Lola, Daddy wanted for her to get an abortion. Not because he didn't want the baby, but because he knew that this would only result in a half-breed werewolf. But for some reason, everybody just kind of went along with this pregnancy, and the pack took baby Lola in, despite her saying that they usually kill kids like her. But I guess that they didn't kill her because Jay was already in love with her, which this is edging close to pedophilia territory here, and this is insanely icky. I don't know how much older that Jay is than Lola, but no matter how you spin it, this is beyond creepy. But for an unknown reason, Jay and Lola didn't see one another again until Lola turned 18. He explained about the fragile pack existence and that the current alpha let his wolf die, and he needed her help to get the pack back in order. So blah blah blah, the entire blocked cave auction thing was nothing but a ruse. How they knew that Kelly was Xavier's actual mate is beyond me, but here we are. The two of them didn't even live in the same state. However, at least Kelly is properly upset over this, that Xavier was nothing but cruel towards her. The fact that all of this was mostly just Lola and Colton stickering behind their hands while Kelly literally tried to kill herself on multiple occasions. Not okay. And for some reason, the app decided that working was for squares. I'd had it open since I started working on my notes for this video and suddenly just now crashed. What a piece of junk. I'll be glad to be done with this soon. Kelly asks if Lola is keeping any other secrets, but Lola kinda hems and haws about something without actually telling Kelly anything further. Kelly says that she wants to be alone, even though this seems to physically pain her to say it. As Kelly storms from the room, Jay runs back in to be with Lola. Kelly goes back to Xavier, who is confused that she's not with Lola. He doesn't seem to understand that when people openly lie to you about huge things like this, that you've been manipulated and played for years, that it tends to fracture relationships. Xavier and Kelly then start to fight about Xavier and his newly refound wolf, because with all of this stupid plot in the way, it's been a while since they had a nonsense fight about nothing. Kelly finally asks why it is that his wolf picked her as his mate, but he says that he doesn't know. When Kelly asks what happens next, he doesn't really answer. Kelly says that this feels like a rejection, and he agrees that it's because it is one.